Now, as I said at the start of the program, there is a growing number of superannuation hypocrites in Parliament. Some of our politicians have the equivalent of huge super funds, and yet they want to cap our contributions, and the government wants to use our money to fund its own ideas. Here to discuss this and a few other of the big news stories of the week is Queensland MP Keith Pitt. Keith, always great to have you on. I can't get past this. The government wants to tinker with superannuation, not tinker, massively change it. It's being cheered on by those who are not affected, like Anthony Albanese, Wayne Swan, even Cheryl Kernow's in there now. It's one rule for them, one rule for the public service, and another rule for the rest of us. How is that fair?
Oh, it's clearly not, Cory, and it's great to be with you again on a Sunday night, mate. But Wayne Swan is clearly in charge. These are his proposals. He's pushing his protege. The Batman and Robin team for Labor are back. And, mate, fundamentally, we talk about politicians' pensions. I'll guarantee you 90% of the people I represent think I still get one. I made the changes made in 2004. They all still think we're on the same scheme, which obviously we are not. But as many very well recognised commentators said this week, it is a death tax by stealth. It is an attack on the system for your money. I mean, this is the equivalent of raiding your bank account. I mean, the fact that it's going to show up at retirement, which may be in a few years or a lot of years, doesn't make any difference. It's still yours.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I like the Batman and Robin analogy. It's not one of these modern Batmans where he was actually effective. It's like the Adam West campy Batman from the 1960s, which I grew up watching, by the way. Okay, move on to this. A Russian space consultant has been called a security threat by ASIO, and now her visa has been cancelled. How big a problem are Russian and Chinese spies in Australia, Keith?
Oh, they've got the two most advanced networks in the world. There's no doubt about that. Cory, as you know, we all get warned about the potential for people to look to get favours from MPs and others and do things that are not in the national interest for this country. But you don't have to worry about the space program anymore, mate. Federal Labor's walking away from it as quickly as they possibly can. It's not going to exist in the future. From what I can see, they've certainly cut a lot of the budget. But I think every Australian needs to be aware that these activities are occurring on our shores. I, for one, mate, am very pleased that we have ASIO and the DSD out there doing their job. You know, they go about it very quietly, but gee, they stop a lot of problems for every Australian.
Yeah, and the work they do, we obviously don't know about, except for cases like this. But my goodness, there's lots of sensitive information that's finding its way overseas that we could be doing a better job of protecting, I reckon. Speaking of doing a better job, this is highly sensitive. I can expect you to kick it in the long grass, but I don't want you to. The New South Wales Libs are scrambling to find 20 candidates just a month out from the election. I got to say, they cost the federal government the election last time. Why are they this hopeless, Keith?
Oh, well, there's a definition out there I won't name. You keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome, Cory. But fundamentally, it's pretty straightforward. You need a good candidate. They need to be in the field early. And the idea they're rolling up when the campaign's basically kicked off already, it doesn't really give you a lot of chance to win. Now, don't get me wrong, mate. I want to see the coalition win in New South Wales. I think it's important they stay in government. But they're really not helping themselves. And I think, mate, as an outsider from the Nats looking in, this is the result of all of this factionalism that's been going on for a long time. It's not in anyone's interests. I mean, even in Queensland, we're starting to see some of this creep into our party. And the LNP, Cory, was formed to be a party for the members, run by the members. And I think that's one of the secrets to its success. Right now, it's the most successful federal party in the country, by far. So the membership has to stand up to this sort of nonsense. It doesn't give good outcomes. It doesn't give you better members of parliament. And for every Australian that's out there that's unhappy with their politicians, well, if you want the parliament to be better, send better people.
Ain't that the truth? I just break it down to as simple as this, okay? The Nats are successful, particularly in regional areas, because everyone knows their local MP. They basically know what they stand for. You know the issues that are happening on the ground, and they reflect that. They want to vote for someone they know and they think are going to give them a fair hearing. That's what you blokes do, and women, I should say.
Oh, well, that's exactly right, and I hope it keeps up into the future. But, mate, it's hard, right? Even through some of our state branches in different states, you do see individuals who are trying to change the position of the party. Our constitution says that we are a conservative party. We support Judeo-Christian values in society because they're good for people and good social outcomes. We support the monarchy, but you've got any number now creeping into the Nats who have different views, which I'll never support. That's one of the reasons I'm in this party.
Yeah, but we just need some common sense creeping into some of these parties as well. Hey, this is a nice segue actually. There are new figures that show Australians are going through the most severe financial pain since the recession in the 1990s. Here's my question to you. Whose fault is this? The current government, the previous government, or the poor Aussie citizen who voted in either of them?
Mate, I remember the 90s. I was very fortunate to pick up an apprenticeship in 1987. And even then there was 200 and something applicants. And then to put myself through uni through some of that period. But mate, in terms of, there's plenty of blame to go around. There always is. But we came off the back of COVID in one of the most incredible financial positions, a lot of that due to the hard work of the resources sector. I mean, they have done an incredible job. I think from memory, their forecast for this financial year is about 460 billion, up from 246. It's significant. It's 1.2 million jobs. And yet confidence in business is everything. And we see the Greens and a lot of the Labor Party that want to destroy that industry and of course the economic boost it gives to this country. But mate, in terms of who's to blame, well, there's only one captain and one crew steering the ship at the moment. The coalition is in opposition. When we were turfed out, and that's the decision of the Australian people, unemployment was under 4%, and I don't remember it ever being at that rate in my lifetime. That might have been when I was too young. And the economy was very, very strong. And right now you've got inflation at the highest level in 3 decades, and you've got significant increases in cost of living, and you've just had the biggest decrease in wage value for decades.
Yeah, it's certainly, someone's got to take responsibility for it, and they're in charge, as you say. There's one captain at the helm of the ship. Keith, I really appreciate your time joining me on a Sunday night. I love your common sense and the fact you're sticking up for communities and the interests of every Australian. You're a very good MP. So thanks for joining me on Bernardi.